What is up guys, and welcome to my latest upload. In today's video I want to give you a little tip about drums and improving the overall sound of the drums in your beats with this quick technique, and I think it's going to make a lot of difference. Now this video is also a kind of reminder to myself because I do get a bit lazy with this, so I thought I'd make this video as a reminder to myself and also share it with you guys because this really is a really valuable tip and I'm sure it's going to help your loops if you don't already do this. So what I want to talk about in this video is dynamics. So if you're not familiar with the term dynamics, basically just think volume, the volume of each individual hit that you are making in a drum loop. Now, a lot of you as beginners, and I'm guilty of this even up to this point as well, will most likely just have your drums all at one volume for the whole loop and they'll just play through over and over. Now, that's not going to sound as interesting as having variations in volumes on those particular hits, or basically adding dynamics to your drum loop. So what we're trying to do really with drums is emulate real drummers, the feel that they put into their drumming when they are playing the drums. And one of the easiest ways to do that is through dynamics, because drummers don't hit the drums at the same volume every single time over and over again. Firstly, it's just human nature that that's the case. It's just physically kind of impossible to always hit someone at the same volume. But also, that's the way they get feel into their drumming, is by varying the pressure and varying the velocity that they're hitting each drum. And that's going to give it that humanized feel. And that's what we want to take and put into our own beats to make them sound more interesting. So I've got an example here, and I think this is a really good example. I'm going to show you this drum break, which has obviously been played by a real drummer. So let's give this a little playthrough. So you may or may not be able to hear in that there's definitely variations in how hard he's hitting the hi-hat and how hard he's hitting the kick. Now, if I go to the waveform of this particular loop, so on pad 2 as well, I've got the same loop, but I haven't trimmed this one. So let's have a look here, and we'll go to the end point and zoom in. Now, this is a really, really good example of what I'm talking about. So check out the waveform here. You should be able to make out that this is two different kicks. So the waveform is showing us one kick just before where I've chopped, because that's going to be the loop, and then it carries on with another kick. But look at the difference in the velocity of those two kicks. This one before it is almost what is called a ghost note, so it's at almost half the volume, I'd say, and then it's quickly followed, it's a quick double on the kicks, quickly followed by a much harder kick. So again, like I'm saying, when drummers are playing, whether this is just human nature or whether this is on purpose to add feel, regardless of which one it is, it does help to add feel. And this is exactly what I'm trying to say. We can add a more humanized feel by emulating this with our own drums. So there's various ways you can do this with all different pieces of equipment. Even on the SP alone, I can think of at least 2 or 3 different ways that you can do this. One of the most simple ways, I think, is that you can either just duplicate the drum sound. So I've got some one shots here from my Lo-Fi Drums Volume 5 pack. You can see here, if I go to pitch and speed, 68 volume, 127. So I can do a quick double like that, exactly how it was just on that loop. We could even bring this down even further, I'd say. Like that, and we can create that pre-ghost note. Instead of it just being like that, we've got this ghost note sound instead, and it sounds like it's got a lot more feel. So that's nice and easy to do like that. We could also use 16 velocity, which you can see under 2 here. So if we take this kick and we go to shift and 2, we now have that kick in a range of different velocities spread over 16 pads. So you'll have your loudest here, you can see 127 volume is top right, and then 1 is down at the bottom left. We can hardly even hear that. So we can use a combination of these to create that ghost note sound. So let's try 15 and 4. Or 11 and 4 maybe. It's quite subtle with the kicks, but it does make a lot of difference if you end up doing this in your drum loops. Now, another really good way of using this technique is with hi-hats, and you'll hear this so much in hip-hop. It's something that you should really be doing almost all the time with your hi-hats to add that variation and feel. So we're going to do exactly the same again with 16 velocity, but this time with the hi-hat. So I'm going to choose the hi-hat sound, also from my Lo-Fi Drums Volume 5 pack. And we're going to put that into 16 velocity. And basically you want to program your hi-hats using 16 velocity, and you want to be doing some sort of pattern like this. So you can hear there, I'm keeping the accent on 4, so the first beat of every bar is the full volume hit, but then I'm varying what I'm playing in between there. So you can start this off dead slow if you need to get the hang of it. So I'm just counting 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. So every time you hit 1, you use the 127 velocity pad, and then in between do anything that you want. I've gone ahead and recorded that to a pattern, and this is what that ends up kind of sounding like. Okay, so you're getting a really natural feel by just using 16 velocity and putting it into a pattern. That's going to sound much better than just doing the same velocity like this over and over again. Hear that? There's just no feel in that. If we go back to the pattern, what's weird about that is I'm playing the pads in exactly the same way, but they just sound radically different, and they sound much better for using dynamics. So I think that's a really crucial tip to those of you that are looking to improve your overall sound of your drums, make them sound less robotic. You've really got to play around with dynamics and try and emulate the way that real drummers play drums. And if you follow that kind of ideology, that mantra, you're definitely going to hear a vast improvement in your drum loops, and you're also going to add a lot more feel as well. So yeah, overall it's just a really good idea to play around with this. So like I say, this isn't gear specific, and you don't have to use the techniques that I have. There's other ways of doing it, such as the pad velocity. You can just play the pads harder and softer if you take off the fixed velocity on the pads. You can use 16 velocity like I've shown you, or you can just duplicate the same sound and put it elsewhere on the bank and then just play around with those. There's lots of different options and ways of doing it, but it's definitely something you should try and integrate. So I hope that's useful, guys. Like I say, those sounds that I was demonstrating with there are from my Lo-Fi Drums Volume 5 pack if you wanted to pick that up and support what I do here. I hope this tip helps, and I'll be back with another video very soon.